Welcome to this talk, and I'm very pleased to welcome Brianne Dressing all the way from Utah. Brianne, thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Now, you have suffered greatly over the past few years.
Obviously, a subscriber to his channel there.
So it is a noble thing to share that. So anything you share with us, we will appreciate. So
I want you to notice the scene that's being set here by N.D. Campbell. The scene that's being set is this lady's coming on. She's been affected by the vaccine. She's a sufferer of a vaccine injury. Therefore, everything that she says is noble. Everything that she says is trustworthy. You know, everything that this lady says is completely noble and trustworthy. We can believe everything she says. We can trust her completely, 100% because she's a vaccine sufferer. Now, you might be thinking, Alistair, well, what could possibly be wrong with that? How dare you even question what could possibly be wrong with that? Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a time of great deception, and nowhere, in my opinion, is there more great deception to be found than on the channel of Nurse Dr. Campbell. Okay? Now, I've actually, at the point of making this video, I'd never seen this video before. A supporter of the channel sent it to me and said, you might want to check this video out. So I'm checking it out for the first time. Now, at the time of me commenting this, okay, I have no idea whether this woman is on the level. I have no idea whether everything she says is trustworthy. But let me tell you something. Just because somebody is presented to me as a vaccine sufferer, I don't know if this woman's even had the vaccine. I don't know if any of this is true. Just because someone's presented to me as a vaccine sufferer, I don't automatically go, right, she's a good person. Everything she's saying is true. I can believe every word that she's saying. I still have my brain switched on. And you might be thinking, Alistair, you simply must trust everything that somebody who is a vaccine sufferer says to you. And what I would say to you is, well, knowing that then, if I were the establishment and I wanted to mislead a giant group of people that were skeptical about what the establishment does, what is the ideal thing that I would tell them that this person is? And the answer is a vaccine sufferer. Because as you've just explained, Alistair, you must trust everything that a vaccine sufferer says to you before they even open your mouth if you're told they're a vaccine sufferer. And before you start going, hang on, wait a minute, are you attacking this vaccine sufferer? Are you saying that she's not who she says she is? No, I'm not saying any of that. I'm simply telling you that at this point of the interview, I haven't made up my mind about this lady. I'm still thinking. Nurse Dr. Campbell has done his switch your brain off monologue. Nurse Dr. Campbell has done this intro of here is a person and everything she says is noble. But yet, I'm still thinking, no, wait a second. This is the Nurse Dr. Campbell channel, and you're not going to tell me how to think. I'm going to judge this lady based on what she says and my opinion of her. I'm going to watch the video. I'm going to decide for myself what's going on here. Okay? And again, people who are going to be in the comments saying, are you saying that this lady... I haven't said anything yet. All right? I'm just telling you that I'm thinking. That shouldn't offend you. That shouldn't offend you. And if you are already offended by the line that I've taken on this video, you've switched your brain off. You've switched your brain off because N.D. Campbell waved his tiny little pathetic, obvious magic wand at you that says, I'm a doctor, I'm a good person, I'm on your side, you can trust me because I've got a literal picture of a sheep behind me that says, turn, look, see. He's got a picture of a sheep behind him with the words, turn, look, see. What do we know about sheep? Well, sheep will follow along with all the other sheep are doing. You can lead sheep around. How did we get into this mess? People were led like sheep. What do I believe Nurse Dr. John Campbell... I'm sorry, John. Sorry, I didn't use your full title. What do I believe that Nurse Dr. John Campbell's channel is? I believe that it's false. I believe it's a false light. I believe it's gathering up people that are skeptical and turning them in one direction to look over there as if they were the type of sheep that don't even know that anything's going wrong. And you believe that this is a coincidence, that this guy has got a picture of a sheep being told to look over there on his channel. That's not a red flag for you. It's a massive coincidence, is it, that this guy that I believe is leading people astray has got a picture of a sheep with turn, look, and see over there. And someone will probably be like, oh, Alex, if you zoom in, it's not really a sheep. It's an alpaca or it's something. It's a sheep, dude. Even if it's not a sheep, it's designed to look enough like a sheep that someone like me will notice it's a sheep, and then you'll be like, well, actually, it's an alpaca, so everything you've said in the whole video is disregarded now or something, right? I'm onto this guy. This guy is the way. Let me tell you something. This guy, in my opinion, I've changed my opinion on it. This guy, in my opinion now, is a dangerous psychopath. I think this guy is a dangerous psychopath. But let's get into this video a little bit more before I expand on that.
Maybe, I think it's probably worth noting, actually, just before we start, there's been quite a lot of publicity this week. You've been in the Times in the UK, you've been in the Telegraph in the UK, you've been in the Daily Mail in the UK, you've been on Bloomberg internationally. So, you know, your story is getting out there, which is
suspicious. That is incredibly suspicious. That's what that is, ND Campbell. It is incredibly suspicious that the mainstream media everywhere cannot get enough of this lady. All right? That is incredible. Before I even listen to a word out of this lady's mouth, they are putting her everywhere on the mainstream media to talk about her vaccine injuries. Why would they be doing that? Let's talk about what we know about the mainstream media, okay? Here on this channel, we're not idiots. We don't think that the mainstream media are out there looking for the truth and they've stumbled upon this story and, oh, this woman's been injured. Quick, get all the cameras over here, right? That's not what the mainstream media is. The mainstream media is a giant spotlight owned and operated by the establishment, by the enemies of mankind, by the enemies of truth. And right now, they are shining it directly on this woman. Why do you think they're doing that? Because they want to get to the bottom of the truth? Because they want to make sure no one's hurt by the COVID vaccines? Come on, people, wake up, okay? This is not evidence that this lady is some kind of conniving, evil person. Although that is a possibility at this point. It's not evidence of that. But what is evidence of is that the establishment wants lots of people to hear what this lady has to say. Now, the immediate question I have is why? Why? Because back at the time when people were being given the, I want to say option to take these vaccines, but it wasn't really an option. Back when people were being coerced into taking them, you wouldn't get somebody with this story on the mainstream media for all the tea in China. You couldn't get this story out there if you wanted to. Matter of fact, at the time, if you were someone like this lady and you turned around and said, I've taken the vaccine and I've been injured, you'd get banned from all social media. I've seen it happen to people. Okay? But all of a sudden now, you're on Bloomberg, you're in the Times, you're everywhere. And if you do a simple Google search of this lady's name, as I have done, there is hundreds, if not thousands, of articles, stories, interviews. This lady is being pushed to a sort of Andrew Tate type level everywhere, which for someone like me is a huge red flag that there is some sort of deception going on here. Okay? So straight away at this point, before this lady's even really said anything, the person that I am, I'm now looking out for deception in this story, in this video. And what I'm immediately looking out for is if this lady's body language doesn't match her story. And the way it's being framed is this lady has been horribly vaccine injured and she's got this horrible story, right? And ND Campbell is this really sympathetic nurse doctor who now knows that the vaccines are bad for you, and he's so sympathetic and he absolutely can't believe it, right? That's the story you're being given. So I want this lady's body language and mannerisms to match that of someone who has been through this terrible ordeal and is really upset by it. Let's see how it goes.
It is encouraging, but what is the story, Brianne? And maybe if you start off with a bit of a timeline, just take us back a few years.
Well, I guess we can start at the beginning, back when life was normal. For me, before My situation I'm in now, I was a healthy mother of two young kids.
I guess what I'm really looking for is sort of, sort of really sort of genuine emotion of like, oh, this horrible thing's happened to me and it's really sad and I'm really upset about it. Especially what I really don't want to see is something called duper's delight, which is where you're telling this sort of horrible story about how this thing, but at the same time you just keep, it's just really bad what's happened to me. And, I don't want to see, like Matt Hancock did it, Matthew McConaughey did it when he was talking about that shooting. What I'm looking for, the signs of deception I'm looking for is someone who can't just sort of stop from sort of smiling. I'm looking for a juxtaposition between a really horrible story that is tragic and really invokes sort of emotions of like, this is horrible things happened to me. So I'm looking for people that saying those words, but that look like they sort of can't stop smiling about it at the same time. That for me would be the sort of hallmarks that a deception might be taking place. And the opposite of that is I sort of listen to someone and think, wow, there's genuine sort of heartfelt emotion here. So that's what I'm looking for. And again, at this point, if you're mad at me for saying this at this point, I haven't given my opinion on this yet, other than it's very suspicious. And here's what to look out for, in my opinion.
And a preschool teacher. My kids were 6 and 8 at the time, and everything I did was for them. I took them to soccer practice, took them to, gymnastics class, and helped out at their schools, and made sure that they, had someone there to comfort them if they scraped their knee. And my world and my husband's world revolved around our kids, just like a typical young family. I was healthy and, did rock climbing and skiing and snowboarding. And 3 weeks before my life changed, I hiked a local mountain here. It's called Mount Timpanogos, and it usually takes 9.5 hours on average to do. And I did it in 7 hours. Like, it was no problem. So,
Wow.
so I was in good shape. And so when the pandemic hit, I did all of the things that that the science and the media was telling me to do. I did the social distancing. I made sure that my kids were wearing masks at school, and we live in a place where people didn't like wearing masks and put masks on their kids. So we definitely were the odd man out for sure. And it was really just because we still do live by our beliefs, right? It doesn't matter what our community or anybody else says. If we feel
Sure.
that it's right, then we do it.
Yeah.
This is the first thing that she says for me that's really odd and doesn't really fit with my remembering of the situation. It's like we wanted to take the vaccine and put masks on our kids, so we were really the odd ones out. And Dr. Campbell's like, oh yeah. It's like, wait a minute. That is nothing like what I remember. If you put the mask on we live in a place where if you put masks on your kids and you take the vaccine, you're the odd one out. Sorry, where is that? Where is that in the world? Where was that at the time? That's really strange. It's like you're taking the vaccine, you're taking part in the trial, but you also want to be like, but I was so victimized for taking the vaccine. That is not how it happened. I mean, maybe in this part of the world where you live, everything was 100% backwards, but I don't remember anywhere in the world. I don't remember anywhere in the world like how this lady is describing. That's the opposite of what I remember. If you put the mask on your kids and took the vaccine and sort of promoted it, you were sort of going along with the establishment. You weren't like being victimized for that. That's crazy.
And so it seemed, like it was not going to be a big deal. I had never had any issue with any previous vaccine. So, yeah, boy, was I wrong.
And these side effects were put forward as being remarkably rare. They were just being mentioned for completeness.
Yes, extremely rare. So, and the list wasn't very long at all.
What I find absolutely incredible here is ND Campbell is about to, he's asking her, what did they tell you about side effects? Right? And she said, they said they were rare. And he's going to go into this kind of, I can't believe they did that. So they didn't even tell you about the side effects. That's absolutely incredible. I didn't tell you about the side effects. This is a video by John Campbell back in the day, right, that I'm about to play you, entitled Vaccine Side Effects. This is the title of the video is entitled Vaccine Side Effects. I'm going to play it to you from the beginning Because right now, John Campbell's pretending like, oh, well, they didn't tell you about the side effects, or they belittled the side effects. That's absolutely criminal of them. This is what he was doing at the time. This is called vaccine side effects, this video.
Now, there are some concerns about the vaccine rollout in Europe, which we're going to address. But I'm going to start off with some good news about the vaccine, and this has got implications for everywhere. And this is that the European Medicines Agency have just, breaking news as they might say in the news outlets, European Medicines Agency recommends COVID-19 vaccine Janssen for authorization in the European Union. So very good news, very welcome news.
Wow, what a genuine commentator. Oh, now there is some news about the vaccine side effects. It's worrying stuff. But before we get to that, just let me tell you, the vaccine's available. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that incredible? You can go and get it. Isn't that great? Wonderful. Get it as soon as you can. Oh, this is a video about the side effects. It's available. Christmas has come early. Let's go and get it right now.
Read the press release from the European Medicines Agency for yourself. We have been expecting this about now, actually, so it's not too surprising. And the news is good. It's a very, very promising development. Because Janssen should start delivering vaccines by April and significant amounts by May. Very significant amounts by May. Now, we heard yesterday that there's good supplies of the Johnson & Johnson Janssen vaccine in, where was it? Wisconsin, I think it was yesterday. We heard that there's good supplies there, so that is encouraging. This is going to roll out quickly.
I had to speed this up because this guy, at the start of a video called Vaccine Side Effects, this guy literally does a 6 or 7 minute song and dance cartwheel session about how they're available. Isn't that incredible?
Stored at normal fridge temperatures. If you are giving out the vaccines and you've got some left, you don't need to rush them all out the same day. Actually, having said that, rushing the vaccines all out on the same day was good for me because that's how I got my Pfizer vaccine. Because there was some left at the end of the shift. 21 days for me, by the way, but of course behaviour hasn't changed since I had the vaccine. so that was good for me. But generally, we want vaccines to be able to, at the end of the shift, just put them into the fridge. Good news all around. And of course, the biggie is it's 1 dose. 2-dose trials of the Johnson & Johnson Janssen vaccine are being carried out to see if it improves efficacy. But at the moment, it's on a 1-dose strategy, which of course is even better. It's going to even accelerate the vaccine programme more. It's good news. So significant amounts by May. So this will be going out big time, May, June, early summer in Europe. Right, so the European Medicines Agency recommend conditional marketing authorisation for 18 years and older, so that makes sense. That's where the phase 3 trial data is. Concluded by consensus. Interesting. I wonder if they didn't all agree. That's interesting. Consensus. Anyway, that the data on the vaccine were robust and met criteria of efficacy, it works, safety and quality.
Just want to remind you, this is a video entitled Vaccine Side Effects, where John is telling you about the side effects of the vaccine. That starts with him underlining tons of vaccine company PR about how great it is.
International firm, and Janssen is the pharmaceutical division of the Johnson & Johnson firm. So the 4th dose now, and it's the first single-dose vaccine. Phase 3 data.
I had to skip ahead to the bit where he actually talks about side effects.
We're expecting supplies, I believe, in the next week or two of Moderna in the UK, and we've also ordered 30 million doses of this. But the UK came to the party a little late on the Johnson & Johnson, unfortunately, just as the European Union came to the party a little bit late on the, on both of them.
This is a video about vaccine side effects. Unfortunately, we've only got 30 million doses, and you can get it as soon as you can, and etc., etc.
Coming. So that's the good news on the vaccine. Now,
The BBC have made a bit of a meal of this, actually, I must say. This is why I'm mentioning it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have bothered.
This is the level of deception you're dealing with on this guy's channel. This was back when people were still deciding whether or not to take the vaccines. He creates a video called Vaccine Side Effects. For the first 8 minutes of the video, he jumps for joy about how great the vaccines are. Then 8 minutes in, he goes, right, well, that's the good news about the vaccine. And goes, right now, the bad news about the vaccine side effects. Now, the BBC have made a massive meal of this, so I'm mentioning it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have bothered. Right? We're going to come back to the video now, in the present, where he sits there with a vaccine side effect sufferer and is like, I can't believe they didn't tell you about the side effects. That's unbelievable. And then pretends to be all concerned, right? We're going to come back to that. But for now, okay, he spends 8 minutes waxing lyrical about vaccines and then says, here comes the bad news, which the BBC have made up, so otherwise I wouldn't have bothered. Does that fit in with your reality? At the time, were the BBC desperate to find any bad news about the vaccine that they could have? Was that true either? Man, everything this guy says is a lie.
But this is the information here. So Denmark have brought about a 14-day halt to the use of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. So they've suspended their rollout of the Oxford AstraZeneca for 14 days. Because some people, we believe 3 or 4 people in Denmark have got blood clots, and there's been 1 death, we believe, in Denmark. So quite concerning that people have had blood clots and a death after the vaccine. Health Minister in Denmark said it's a precautionary measure that they've suspended this, and he says we must respond in a timely and careful manner. Now, the BBC have also flagged up the case in Austria, we believe. Now, it's unclear that I think this woman's in Austria. Now, whether this death that's being referred to was in Denmark, I'm not really sure whether there was a death in Denmark as well, but there was certainly one in Austria. And it was a 49-year-old woman, died 10 days after the vaccination. So she had the vaccine, and 10 days later, unfortunately, there was a fatal event. So Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg have also stopped rollout of this particular batch, and there's about 1 million vaccines in this batch that they've suspended the rollout of. So it doesn't sound good, people dying after the vaccine. But of course, we have to put this in context, don't we? So the European Medicines Agency have actually been quite proactive on this, which is good to see. So there's probably 3 cases and it looks like there's 1 death. So it looks like there might have been some double counting with that death in Denmark. It wasn't entirely clear that the BBC may have been referring to that death in Austria. So the European Agency.
So straight away, it says there's been 2 deaths. Let's just cross one out and let's make it 1. This guy.
So probably 3 cases and 1 death of blood clots, 1 million doses in the batch. And the Safety Committee is reviewing the Austrian case. So the European Medicines Agency Safety Committee, rightly, is reviewing it. But they have said there is currently no indication that the vaccine caused these blood clots and deaths. So sounding fairly good news.
That's it, by the way. That was the full investigation that Nurse Dr. John Campbell put into vaccine side effects at the time, right? A 10-minute diatribe at the beginning of the video about how great the vaccines are and how lucky you are to get them, and you can still get yours now, and he was so lucky to get his because they had a fridge in the back, right? And then he goes through there's deaths. You go, well, this one doesn't count, this one might not count, and there's no evidence. And the people in charge of promoting the vaccines and saying that it's safe say that it might not have been the vaccine that killed the dead person anyway. So let's just get the piece of paper and put it over there, and that's all done. That was him at the time. Okay? That was John Campbell outright dismissing vaccine side effects at the time. Okay? This is him now interviewing somebody that supposedly, allegedly, perhaps, the video leads us to believe, is a severe vaccine side effect sufferer.
Yeah.
What happened when you got the shot, Brianne?
My shot, it's, my reaction, it started right away. It started within an hour of my injection, and it started with tingling down the same arm as my injection. Yeah. And I thought it was strange because it's a very foreign sensation. It felt as though I had fallen asleep on my arm for hours, right? It's that painful, sharp pulling sensation that's a little bit electrical and numb at the same time. That's what it felt like. And I thought it was odd. Later that night, my vision had become blurred and double. And then that night I had a typical vaccine response with the fever and everything else. And I was like, oh, I definitely did not get a placebo. It was very obvious with that reaction. Yeah. And then when I got up to get ready for work the next day, my left leg was slumped, and I was always walking into the left doorways. For some reason, it was always to the left. I didn't have dropped foot. It was more like my entire leg was sagging. So that day at school, my cute little preschoolers, I remember telling them, oh, your little voices are so loud today. But it really wasn't them getting louder. It was my sensitivity to sound ramping up as the day progressed. And by the end of the class period, I had the lights turned off in the classroom. And I had the kids parked in front of a learning channel in front of the TV. And I was just holed up in the corner waiting for the parents to come get them. So that was the last day that I taught. And then over the next 2.5 weeks, the symptoms just kept piling on. Tachycardia, bradycardia, limb weakness. I lost control of my bladder. I had this severe, that pins and needles moved from the one arm through my chest over to the other arm. and then it moved from my head all the way down to my toes. And then it just turned into this nightmarish electrical surge over and over through my body all the time. It was so bad that I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. The only thing I could do was remind myself to breathe. And from then on, it was just kind of like this, I mean, not to be dramatic, but it was just unrelenting torture. And it's still there to this day. All those symptoms are still there, other than the sensitivity to light and sound are gone now. Everything else is still there. I've just figured out how to manage the symptoms to bring the severity down enough so I can think, I can eat, I can have conversations. So
you've got this constant sensation all over the surface of your body all the time.
Yeah, it's actually, it feels like it's inside. It moves with my heartbeat. So it moves in and out from my heart all the time. It's the most foreign and unnatural sensation, you know, that I've ever experienced in my life. And it's just insane that I am plagued with it every moment of every day for the rest of my life. Yeah, it's not fun. And the other people that I know that have been injured in a similar way from AstraZeneca, I feel their pain, you know. I know exactly what that's like, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
So this is actually a constant pain. It's not just the discomfort, it's actually painful.
Yeah, it's painful. It's a prickling, stinging, pulling sensation.
Man, she seems mortified, this lady. She really seems upset by this. It's really describing. She seems, just everything about her facial expression, the way she's describing, she seems like she's really reliving this tragedy, doesn't she?
And it feels like it's teeny tiny nails moving in my veins. Comes from the heart, moves out, and I can feel every single beat that my heart beats because of this moving in and out. It was in my head at the beginning, in my brain, and it was so bad that my eyes would vibrate like this and I couldn't see hardly anything. It was bad. So that's gone too. But it's still, you know, everywhere else in my body.
I mean, I'm just stunned. I mean, let's go back to the first week or two that you had this. How did you sleep? How did you eat? How did you do anything?
You know what? I don't want this video to go on too long because we're already half an hour in here because it's a long interview. But the gall of Nurse Dr. Campbell is absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? Like, this guy was pushing these vaccines so hard, right, at the time. I just showed you. He's pushing them so hard, dismissing any evidence that they could hurt people, right? Really, really pushing them. Now, he's got the gall to have somebody who supposedly, apparently so the video leads to believe, is this horribly effective vaccine survivor who's had such a terrible time, she can't stop cracking up about it, right? So he's got her on, and he's got the gall to be like, oh, this is awful, this is terrible. This is like somebody selling shotguns to 8-year-olds outside of a school, and then bringing on an 8-year-old and be like, wow, so you got your head blown off. Oh, it's absolutely awful. It's terrible. It's disgusting. Oh, it's horrible. And really sort of getting into the details and tell us how painful and awful it was. It was like, yeah, this was like your fault, dude. This is your fault. It's a very, very strange video, this video. Because throughout the video, Nurse Dr. Campbell continuously tries to sort of give this performance of like sympathy and, oh, it's so awful. But really for me, if I'm honest, why I think they're broadcasting this so much, the establishment obviously wants to now really sort of fear porn you, in my opinion, about vaccine side effects. They know a lot of people took these things, and they're probably subconsciously or consciously terrified now that they can have these side effects. So they got this horror story, you know, just this real like, oh, it's ruined my life, and it's horrible, and it's nails inside me, and it's death, and it's horrible, it's disgusting. But meanwhile, the lady telling you the story for some reason can't stop smiling about the whole thing. I don't know. It's very odd to me. This whole video is very odd to me, and something just seems off about the whole thing. For number one, I don't trust anything that Nurse Dr. Campbell does. But he's now pretending like he really cares about vaccine side effects when, you know, a lot of these would be his fault, you know, people like him that, you know, John Campbell essentially just, what he does on his channel, for those who are familiar, he gets sort of government PR, establishment PR about how great the vaccines are. He underlines parts of it and pretends to explain it, and dismisses anything negative about the vaccines right up until the point where everyone realized, hey, we got tricked. And then he flip-flops and he goes, oh, you know what? I was tricked. I was duped just like you guys. And now, somehow, he plays this role that people believe this guy with like millions of YouTube subscribers that's making millions of pounds out of being the anti-vaccine guy. And somehow people believe that. But what do you guys think about this whole video? In my comments, let me know. And before you get started, look, I'm not saying this woman's definitely a liar. I'm not saying she never had the vaccine. I'm not saying she didn't have vaccine side effects. I'm just saying there's something odd about this. And if someone wants to blow me up and be like, how dare you question that this could be deception? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. If you really believe that this woman was duped into taking the vaccine, she's got these horrible injuries, then, right, you must realize that we're living in a time of great deception. So for someone like me to say, okay, there might be some deception going on here by this lady whose story's everywhere all over the mainstream media. If you want to blow me up for that, that doesn't make any sense, does it? It doesn't make any sense. So, what do you think? But there's something off about this, in my opinion. There's definitely something off about ND Campbell. And I don't understand why the establishment would be pushing vaccine injuries now, other than to terrify people and give them this sort of horror story. But there's something up here. What do you guys think? Let me know. Thanks a lot. See you in the next video.
That's the end of the video again. The video's ending in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ending now. It's the end of the fucking video, man. Go fuck yourselves.